50 Cent has appeared on the cover of the Hollywood Reporter. And he's sitting on a bunch. He's sitting like he's wearing all green light gang. And he's sitting on a bunch of stacks, which are actually real, believe it or not. He actually imported about $3.5 million in cash for this photo shoot. I don't know about the one that he's actually sitting on because those look like old bills. That might be real. I don't know. But every money that's around him is actually real. I know he did a photo shoot a while ago with Floyd Mayweather or something, or maybe just himself, and it was all fake money. So I think he decided this time, and he actually walked in, which is hilarious. He walked in with a bunch of security guards. They had to close all the windows when they were doing this shoot and just basically keep it very low key because $3.5 million in cash, something can happen. You know, that's not a light amount of money to be walking around in cash with. But they interviewed him. Unfortunately, nothing about music, which I wasn't expecting. But they interviewed him and they asked him about Diddy. And this is the first time he's like spoken on like an actual platform about what's going on with Diddy. They talked about the Diddy documentary that's coming out on Netflix, all that stuff. So let's go over what the interviewer asked. So the interviewer asked, what made you want to produce a docuseries on Diddy? 50 said this, I'm the only one from hip-hop culture that's produced quality projects. I don't know about that, but, because Ice Cube had Friday, which was insane. But, the budget wasn't really that high. I get it, whatever. Anyways, we do have a lot of talent within our culture where the talent has developed comfortability in front of the camera. So they're usually a part of it as an actor or driving force of why someone would watch the project, not the behind-the-scenes production. Producing the project, so there's producing the whole project, so there's a difference. So he's saying basically in front of the camera is where most of our hip-hop Hollywood has been instead of behind the scenes. And there's a huge difference with the two, which I agree. Then the interviewer says, over the years, you've made a point of not attending Diddy's parties. Was that because somebody told you the energy there was off? Or did you go to something that felt odd? This is what 50 had to say. He asked me to take me shopping. I thought that was the weirdest shit in the world because that might be something that a man says to a woman. And I'm just like, nah, I'm not fucking with this weird energy or weird shit coming off the way he was just moving. From that, I wasn't comfortable around him. And yeah, we heard this story a while ago. He talked about this on the Breakfast Club. That's when he first revealed it. Basically saying after that, everything's been weird around him, and I don't want that weird energy. Rightfully so, because any grown man asked me to go shopping, and that's weird. The interviewer then says, I know you and Diddy have collaborated on a few songs. Were you ever friends? This is what 50 said. It was mostly work. I wouldn't call it a friendship because there wouldn't be disappointment between us if we didn't speak to each other. There's points that we worked together. Jennifer Lopez actually told him he should work with me as a songwriter in the beginning, and I was around at the early stages. And he could have done my record deal at that point, meaning he could have signed me. This is following me being shot up, the Trackmasters deal at Columbia Records where Lopez was signed, and I'm just getting back to work. And he'd call me to write. I remember Diddy would call, and my son's mom would answer, and I didn't want to get on the phone like, no. And she was like, what the fuck? We need money. She's looking at me like, what? Why don't you want to talk to him? I didn't ever party or hang out with him. Puff is a business person. When people call him a producer, I see people that were taken advantage of. So now he's attacking Diddy for not paying, producers and engineers and stuff their proper just due, and even their artists. So now he's attacking that. He says, I see people that were taken advantage of who produce things that he took from them. So he's saying he's not even a producer. He got the credit. He's not a producer. He's been able to take advantage of the business and the creatives in it. I don't have any interest in doing that. I actually fall under the creative, so I just didn't take to hanging out with that. So he's saying I didn't want to fuck with somebody who is a snake, basically. Takes the credit for everything, doesn't pay people properly. And when you look at the history of 50's career, there hasn't been ever a moment where somebody said, I haven't been paid properly. There was the Young Buck situation where he said, I never seen royalties. But Buck, 50 paid Buck's taxes, and Buck has always admitted to that. 50's always over really paid people. MOP that was signed at one point to, G-Unit, they said we were overpaid. Like 50 was just giving budgets out like it was nothing because he was fans of MOP, Mobb Deep, all that stuff. So there's never been really stories of 50 not paying people. I've never heard it. And if it ever does come out, I'm sure it's probably somebody disgruntled or along the lines of that. Who knows? But there's been millions of stories of Diddy just not paying people. The interviewer then says there have been so many silent voices when it comes to what's going on with Diddy, as if people are afraid to speak up. Why? Shout out to whoever this interviewer is, man. Great questions. 50 said this. Some of them were involved at the parties and enjoyed themselves, so they don't know what the fuck is on the tape or what's not on the tape. So they're not going to say anything because they might have had too much fun. Insane shit. And then you've got other people who look and go, well, that's not my business and I don't want to be in it. Then you've got a part of our culture that says that's snitching or dry snitching or shit like that. It's not uncomfortable for me to say what I said because I've been saying this shit for 4 to 5 years. I've been telling you, I don't fuck with him. I don't like the way he's moving. This is a little crazy. Everybody else is not going to be as comfortable as I am saying it, which is facts, man. That's probably why a lot of people aren't speaking out, is because some of the people party with Diddy and we're at the all-white parties and who knows what the fuck they were doing, and maybe Diddy recorded all that stuff. I know that when the feds raided the house, they did get footage because all of a sudden after the raid, we got that surveillance video footage of, him putting his hands on Cassie and beating her at the hotel. Continuing on, the interviewer says, you and Mary J. Blige have a great relationship, and she's also close friends with Diddy. I wondered if she had ever reached out to you. 50 said, no. You know what? Mary never reached out to me to tell me to not fuck up Puffy because she knows that he does shit. There you go. And now it gets a little bit more personal. So shout out to this interviewer, really asking questions that most people would probably be scared to or tiptoe around at least. The interviewer asks, your ex and child's mother, Daphne Joy, who was named in Rodney Lil Rod's Jones' lawsuit against Diddy, claimed you raped and physically abused her in a social media post. She has since deleted that post, by the way. You're suing her for defamation. What's happening? That's a wild question. Shout out to the interview. Direct questions, man. That's the way it's supposed to be. 50 then says, for me, I pussyfoot around the Daphne stuff, and I'll tell you why. So he's saying basically I can't really answer the question properly, and I'll tell you why. I got a family court case. The allegations that came out, she posted things to her page saying some crazy shit. But this comes 8 hours after I filed for custody for my son. And she put that up in response to that. And I'm like, in this climate, you know how quickly they pass judgment. Things have worked out since she said those things. I had my son on Father's Day and we chilled. I'd like to respond and say some wild shit, but I've got to sustain that for my son. So he's basically saying, I don't want to go in on this bitch because, I want to make sure that the courts decide that I'm fit to be the father and that she loses custody potentially of the kid. Then the interviewer says, were you worried? Because regardless of what's real or not, those claims can be damaging, especially because you're making a doc about someone who is an abuser. 50 then says this, it is damaging. It is damaging just to have anything said about you at this point because you have people out there who don't believe in your intentions. And if things are going in a positive direction for you and something pops up, they go, this is what we have been waiting for. For entertainment purposes, they exploit that as much as possible, but there is no merit to it. And then the interviewer, this is more respect to the interviewer because these are some pressing ass questions that most people would be scared to ask, but they asked. The interviewer then asked, some critics have pointed out that Dr. Dre has an abusive past, which we all know about, and he's your mentor and I've wondered if that contradicts you producing the Diddy doc. So basically saying you work with a former abuser. You've done music with him. You look up to that person as your mentor, but then you're doing a doc bashing an abuser. So you work with one, you're cool with that one, but you're bashing an abuser. This is what 50 has to say. It's fine that they would feel whatever they feel because I don't know what is true or what's not true about Dre's situation. And these things date back to before I was even signed to Dr. Dre. That is true, though. 50 signed in 2003. These abuse allegations were like in the mid-90s. But this would mean not acknowledging all the things that are positive about him. All the successes I have had and everything, because that's the time frame we are talking about. Look, it may irritate people that have heard that. That's crazy to think that you would not produce a doc series now based on that as well. So he's basically saying, listen, I got with this guy in 2003. Yeah, we're friends and stuff. I don't know what happened in the mid-90s, But that has, I didn't personally do any of these things. Yeah, I might have worked with somebody that may have done these things, but I personally didn't do it. So, I have every right to produce a documentary bashing Diddy, who actually did do it. But yeah, then he talks about a bunch of his ventures. He's got like his own channel coming, which is called Fast Channel. He talks about Hollywood mentors and other things that he's got in the works. And let me see. He talks about the Grammys. And because they talk about Power never getting Emmy nominations, which is wild. They basically said, how do you feel about that? And 50 said, I don't really give a fuck about the Grammys. And then he talked about how, and the funny thing about the Grammys is, he said, they asked him this, do you vote at the Grammys? He says, no, I don't know who's voting that shit. It's crazy. Whoever they are, they're off at Beyonce's house because she has 30 of them. That is fucking hilarious because it's true. Beyonce, and I remember Jay-Z bitching about Beyonce not getting album of the year or some shit. Like, bro, your wife literally gets every fucking Grammy every time she drops anything. So, woohoo, she doesn't get one section of the Grammys. All of a sudden, you're going to cry about it and do a whole speech about it. Like, relax, Jay-Z. But yeah, Jay-Z, and then 50 talks about how Jay-Z, Rock Nation, he didn't really say Jay-Z specifically, but he said Rock Nation didn't want him at the Super Bowl. We already talked about this a long, long time ago, but he basically just doubled down on that and said, yeah, Rock Nation and Jay-Z didn't want me at the Super Bowl. And this is interesting. So the interviewer also asked about 50 working with a posthumous Michael Jackson song called Monster, which I love, man. I'm glad somebody asked about this song because if I was interviewing 50, these are some of the questions I would ask. So I'm glad that, somebody's asking like great questions. Like these are great questions. The interviewer asked, you were featured on Monster from Michael Jackson's posthumous album, 2010's Michael. But that song and 2 others were removed from streaming services in 2022 because people questioned the authenticity of Michael's vocals. Did you feel like Michael was singing on Monster? So basically what happened is on the 2010 album, Michael, there were accusations that some of the songs on the album weren't actually sung by Michael Jackson. It was an imposter, and that's why some of these songs got removed off streaming platforms, and fans were upset, so on and so forth. 50 said this, those were definitely Michael's vocals. You know what's crazy? Teddy Riley, who worked on Michael's 1991 Dangerous album, produced that record. And Chris Tucker will tell you how excited Michael was about the music I was making. And there is old footage of Michael loving in the club. And then he said, you and Michael didn't record together right. He says, yeah, the communication about it started before he passed in 2009. And when he died, Teddy was like, yo, you got to do this joint. Monster was like his new Thriller. I was like, yo, definitely, let's do it. I was excited to do it. And then the interviewer asked, did you and Michael ever get a chance to meet? He says, no, I didn't. You know how excited I was to record that record because I had Michael Jackson photo when he was moonwalking and the street light was lighting up during Billie Jean. That shit was on my bed. I was growing up, and he was the coolest person in the world at that point. There was nobody cooler than Mike. So, yeah, it's unfortunate that 50 and Mike never met each other and they never actually worked together. But, yeah, great article, man. Great interview. Let me see who was interviewed by. I don't know. This is where the article was written by. Mesfen Fidaktu. I don't know if that's the person I actually interviewed, but the article was written by them. So shout out to that person for interviewing. Great questions, man. Most people don't ask a lot of these questions and getting down to the business, man. They didn't, hey, they asked about the abuse things that he got charged with. They asked about all the Diddy stuff, all that stuff. And yeah, they didn't pussyfoot around the questions like 50 said. But yeah, cool little interview, and 50 doubled down on everything relating to Power and, Diddy, all that stuff, Michael Jackson. So yeah, we'll keep our eyes posted. There's going to be a new video interview coming out pretty soon by US Weekly. So look out for that. 50's going to be doing that. And he was supposed to announce something that I was going to let you guys know about, but I think he's backtracking on it based off the people I talked to in 50's camp. He's backtracked off that. And when the interview with US Weekly comes out, which is a video interview, when that comes out, we'll see what he talks about on there 100%, and then I'll talk about what he was supposed to talk about on there, but they backtracked. But that'll be for the future when that video actually comes out. But yeah, we'll keep our eyes posted and see if anything new comes up relating to 50.